One thing people usually do, they are quick to start blaming other people for their marital choice. Have you seen people, instead of them taking responsibility for getting it wrong when it comes to them being in a relationship with somebody or marrying somebody, do you know what they will do? They will start blaming other people for their woes. They will start blaming other people for their misfortune. They will start blaming other people for their precarious mistakes. Why do they do that? It's because there are things they were meant to know, but they neglected those things. And just like I always tell you in my videos, whenever I'm live, I always tell you, I said, anything you fail to know in life, but you were meant to know that thing. If you neglect knowing that thing, the pain of that thing that you didn't know will still haunt you later on in life. And that is how the world of relationship and marriage is. Now, it's not what you tell us when you are making your marital decision that matters. It's the outcome. The life of every living thing is in the blood. Wisdom is generated from the blood. Understanding is of the blood. Character is of blood. 90% of sicknesses people are suffering in life can be traced to their bloodline. I say 90% of sicknesses, ailments that people suffer from in life could be traced to their bloodline, their blood kind. So if you know that life is in the blood, people's life is in their blood, because your blood has information, your blood has light, your blood has knowledge, your blood has understanding. Character is of the blood. That's why I always tell you that people from a particular family tend to behave in a certain way that is different from people that is from another family. All blood are not the same. Why I'm saying what I'm saying right now, sometimes it's not about advising people and it's not about talking to people. Sometimes if you are talking to people and you are advising people in life, if their blood quality does not have enough value in it to allow them to understand what you are saying, they will not understand what you are saying. They may be looking at you talking, but what you are saying will not be making sense to them. We call it blood kind. There are certain bloods that produce intelligent people. There are certain bloods that produce wise people. And there are certain bloods as well that produce disciplined people. In fact, when you meet people that are coming from that particular bloodline, it's not difficult for them to live a morally upright life. Why? Because of the quality of the blood that gave birth to them. So there are families, the blood they have in them is of a corrupt blood. Their blood has been corrupted over time through the process of generational decay. Their blood has come to the point that it has deteriorated, it has decayed, that anywhere their blood, they want to give birth to a child, they will always produce corrupt people. So what it means to say, guys, is this: there are certain blood kind, if you marry their offspring, you will never end with pain, suffering, agony in that marriage. What did I say? I said there are certain bloodline, because of the quality of the blood that is in their offspring. If you marry them, you will never finish with pain and failure in life. This thing I'm telling you right now, how many people do consider this thing I'm telling you when they want to marry a lady or when they enter into relationship with somebody? You just enter into a relationship or with a woman or a man, and you don't want to consider the quality of blood that produced that person, where the person is coming from. Just like I told you before, I said you could see some parents, they are living their life in a certain way. When they give birth to children, they will be advising those children, do this, do that. It's not about what you are telling the child. It's about the blood that is in the child. Because when you finish advising your child on what to do, it is the blood that is flowing in that child that will determine what that child will do. The quality of the blood in that child. There are bloods that have superior value, and there are bloods that have inferior value in them. All bloods are not the same. That's why sometimes, for some people that use human beings for sacrifice or all these things they want to do, what happens is that there are human beings you will take to a sanctuary or to an altar to sacrifice. The person in charge of that altar will reject that blood. Have you discovered that sometimes there are sacrifices that if people want to make, the native doctor, maybe the person in charge of that evil altar, will be demanding maybe sometimes for the blood of a virgin? Have you asked yourself why? And for sometimes when they want to do some things, they will tell you just to bring the blood of an animal for sacrifice. And as sometimes there is this kind of jazz or something a native doctor will want to do, they will tell you to that this thing will require the blood of a human being. Have you asked yourself why? Because what most people don't know is that every blood has quality and every blood has value. But there are bloods that has what I call nonsensical value. So if you don't want to experience marital pain and failure, please study the bloodline that produced the man or the woman you want to marry or get married to. Because I have heard people, they will say, oh, we are just vibing well, we know ourselves, we love ourselves. Please, marriage is a lifetime thing. It's more than you know yourself. So don't you know there are bloodlines that produce harlots, especially among the female children? So what it means is that any female child that is coming from that bloodline will always be wayward. There are bloodlines that do that. There are bloodlines that produce children that can never stay long in marriage. So why would you want to marry a woman and you don't want to study the bloodline that produced that girl? Why would you want to get married to a man? You don't want to consider the bloodline that produced that man. There are people, if you marry them from the beginning of that marriage, in fact, as both of you are just in relationship, you are just in relationship only, you guys are just starting that relationship, that lady will start giving you war. She will start giving you trouble. She will start giving you pain right from your relationship before both of you even get into marriage. Do you know why people are suffering in marriage today? And we know why some people are lamenting with the type of man or type of woman they married. Is because they failed to consider the type of bloodline that gave birth to the person they are marrying or they want to marry in life. You want to marry a woman and you say you don't care about finding out the family that she's coming from. And you don't even want to find out about the town the lady is coming from. Let me tell you guys something. Please, I don't want to mention this particular place because I know some of my followers could be from there. So I don't want to generalize. There was something that happened. A friend was telling me, because this friend of mine, she's a pharmacist. So she was telling me something that happened, that in their store, in their pharmacy, they brought a 8-year-old girl. And this girl was raped by a man a guy that is 32 years old, and blood was coming out from that little girl's 8 years old girl private parts, and a 32 years old guy was the person that raped that girl. I want to ask you a question. Have you bothered to ask yourself what kind of blood produced a guy that did that kind of thing? What kind of bloodline produced a young man that looked at an 8-year-old girl and raped her? Even if Konji, they catch you, are there no brothels? And you looked at a girl that is 8 years old and you raped her. Some of you don't consider the bloodline people are coming from, and you go and carry them and say you have married a wife or you have married a husband, and then you expect what is already spoiled to be good. It will never happen. Have you tend to consider the type of parents that gave birth to a boy that is 32 years old that raped a girl that is 8 years? Have you considered the type of bloodline that produced a boy like that? Or you think it was by accident? No, there is nothing like accident on it. The other day she was telling me, in that same of their vicinity, a man that is 46 years went and raped a little girl that is 6 years old. The thing is that both of these people, they are in prison now because of uncontrolled sexual appetite. A guy ended up his life in prison. Plus for how many minutes pleasure? Now he's in prison for the rest of his life. Not just that he's in prison, they gave him life imprisonment because of that. So he will stay in that prison and die. Because some of you don't know the pain, the agony of raping a girl that is 6 years old, a girl that is 8 years old. How will that little girl recover from that? Do you know what the guy has done to that little girl? The trauma, the pain, the emotional pain the girl will be going through for the rest of her life. Because somebody that came from a decayed bloodline came across her path. And if that guy was not caught, or maybe the girl didn't scream and the neighbors came out and caught him while he was right in that act, if he had escaped being caught and nobody knew about it, tomorrow that kind of guy will go and see a girl, he will go and marry a girl, and then he will move into marriage with a girl, and then the marriage things will start going, haywire in that marriage. And the girl will say, see what my husband is doing, without the girl knowing that this person that married her is somebody that is lower than in fact worse than an animal. So if you don't want to experience marital pain in life, I always tell people, please consider the type of bloodline that gave birth to somebody. As long as people continue to marry people from wrong bloodlines, marital pain and failure will never end on it. How do you know the type of bloodline somebody is coming from? That you are seeing a girl on social media. She's on social media, on TikTok, or maybe on Facebook, because I've not seen such on Instagram. Or maybe I've not come across them, or I don't know whether they're on Instagram. And she's on TikTok, maybe on MySpace and all of these things, and she's shaking her bum bum. She's even half naked because she wants to get viewers. She wants subscribers. She wants followers. She's dancing half naked. She's showing her boobs to the whole world. This girl is opening her tutu for people just for her to do viewers because she wants to make money. Have you asked yourself what kind of bloodline produced a girl like that? Don't you know that there are things that girls that are coming from expensive bloodlines, there are things they cannot do online? But some of you will see such a girl and you will say, oh, she's sexy. It doesn't matter that she's very sexy. Sexy, almost sexy. You will now go and carry her. By the time that marriage start having issues tomorrow, you will now start crying that your marriage is failing, that you are in pain. By the time you marry her and she cannot stay faithful to you in that marriage. You will now start crying, why did I marry this wayward woman? But you saw a glimpse of what she can do before you went to marry her, and now you are complaining. The guy you want to get married to, have you cared to find out the story that produced their village or their town, or what their village is known for? Have you cared to find out what is in their village? Don't you know that there are regions, there are tribes, there are ethnic groups, there are villages that are known for evil? Or you don't know that it's difficult for you to find a good person from such a place. The worst thing that can happen to somebody in life is not for you to study your environment and know the environment you are entering into. This is where a lot of people are getting it wrong. You don't want to study the environment that produced the person you want to marry, or the family the person you want to marry is coming from, or the bloodline that produced that person. And yet you want to carry that person to go into marriage for the rest of your life. In fact, why will marital pain and failures end on earth when people are neglecting where people are coming from, the type of bloodline that produce people's background, the story behind their family, the type of parents those people have? Then why will marital pain end? So are you seeing why marital pain and failure will never end on earth?